What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Here we are with another reaction. In this, we have why the United States is a bigger threat to China, is a bigger threat to India than China ever was. And I'm very intrigued to hear about this. How could we be a bigger threat to India than China? What? Okay. Before we dive in, if you guys happen to enjoy, please don't forget to smash that subscribe button, give the video a thumbs up. Also, if you would like to support this channel by becoming a member, all you gotta do is hit that join button to receive your exclusive benefits. Let's dive right in.
For years, the United States has been regarded as a global superpower, and in recent decades, a key partner to India. India and the United States have shared a complex relationship over the years, ranging from periods of tension to recent strategic partnerships. Today, many see the US as a special partner to India, especially in counterbalancing China's influence in Asia. However, behind this warm friendship, a deeper pattern emerges. One where the US often places its strategic interests above all, even if it means compromising those of its allies.
Yeah, that sounds
While the
about
United
right.
States claims to be the flag bearer of freedom and democracy, it has a long history of intervention in nations that challenge its global dominance, sometimes leaving behind instability and turmoil. For India, an emerging global power, these actions raise a critical question. Could the US, with its influence and hidden agendas, end up being a bigger threat to India than its Asian rival China?
That's
At
a
this
really
stage
good
in India's
question.
journey, this question
I'd be intrigued to hear what you guys think about that because that is a very good point. Of course, the U.S., as anybody other country grows to rival the U.S.'s power, the U.S. is not going to like that, and they are going to try to stop it. I believe they're going to interfere to try to stop that because they want to be the number one superpower in the world. They want to be the top dog, and they don't want anybody competing with them. So, and seeing India's rise at the moment, we know that at a certain point, right now they have a strategic partnership, but at a certain point, the U.S. may turn its eyes and say, you know what, we don't like this. So I want to hear more of what he's got to say.
is more relevant now than ever before. The United States has a track record of fueling and profiting from conflicts, often
Yeah.
by providing arms to regions on the brink of war. The U.S. arms industry is one of the most powerful in the world, with exports reaching record highs of $238 billion in 2023. The Stockholm International Peace Research Institute ranks the U.S. as the largest arms exporter globally, providing weapons to over 100 countries, some of whom face complex geopolitical threats. By selling arms to these nations, the U.S. doesn't just strengthen its economy, it secures influence over these countries' security policies. For example, in Ukraine, the U.S. supplied weapons and military aid as tensions with Russia escalated. As of October 2024, it has provided nearly $64 billion in military aid to Ukraine since the conflict began. This financial dependency ties Ukraine's security directly to the U.S., maintaining a cycle of reliance that keeps U.S. arms flowing into Ukraine and its strategic influence intact.
US President Joe Biden has cleared Ukraine to use US-provided missiles to strike deep into Russian territory.
The United States has a
I always try to say, bro, when like the U.S. don't do nothing for free. They don't do nothing in terms of simply helping. They will help in terms of gaining more influence in a country. They will help in terms of a country being having to depend on them and being able to put a military base somewhere and so many things. But just know that if you think the U.S. is helping out of the goodness of its heart, you are sorely mistaken, and they are getting something from the deal. The U.S. will always absolutely be getting something from the deal, and so yes, that makes sense. That makes absolute sense. What do you guys think about that?
Documented history of overthrowing leaders it perceives as threats to its interests, often in the name of freedom or democracy. Take Iran in 1953, when the CIA orchestrated a coup against the democratically elected Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh. Mossadegh had nationalized Iran's oil, a move that threatened Western oil interests, particularly those of British and American companies. Operation Ajax, as it was called, replaced Mossadegh with a regime that aligned with U.S. interests. Another example is the 1973 coup in Chile, where the U.S. government played a covert role in overthrowing President Salvador Allende. Through the CIA, the U.S. backed General Augusto Pinochet, whose authoritarian rule led to years of human rights abuses. Declassified documents reveal the extent of U.S. involvement and the CIA's efforts to prevent Allende's rise, reflecting a pattern of supporting regimes that prioritize U.S. interests, regardless of the human cost. These operations are carried out on the back of a massive military presence, with around 750 military bases in over 80 countries.
Yeah.
Many of these are strategically positioned across Asia, particularly in Japan and South Korea, where the U.S. maintains a constant presence to counterbalance China's influence. Closer to India, recent developments in Bangladesh have raised serious concerns. Bangladesh's St. Martin's Island, near the Bay of Bengal, holds immense strategic value. Reports suggest that the U.S. has shown interest in establishing a military base on the island, potentially enabling it to closely monitor India's naval activities and nuclear submarine program. If the U.S. succeeds in gaining a military foothold in Bangladesh, it will change the strategic calculus for India, bringing U.S. military influence directly into India's backyard. New Delhi's strategic autonomy could face new challenges as American interests align less with that of India, and more with exerting its influence over the region. One prominent example of U.S. policies conflicting with Indian interests is the shelter provided to separatists like Gurpatwant Singh Panun, a vocal proponent of Khalistani separatism. Panun, who holds U.S. citizenship, has called for the secession of Indian state of Punjab, undermining India's territorial integrity. Such anti-India elements.
Dang, so America holds Khalistani separatists as too. I knew that was an issue with Canada, and that was a bad issue between India and Canada. I didn't know that the U.S. also held Khalistani separatists. That one's shocking to me. Do you guys? I didn't know about the Bay of Bengal. Do you guys think the U.S. would actually be able to put their military base there? And if so, would you guys actually see that as a threat to India, as kind of the U.S. keeping an eye on things, I guess? And if they were to be put there, do you guys think we know India has its strategic autonomy? Do you guys think the U.S. would be any way, shape, or form able to influence India to make certain decisions that India might not make otherwise? I think Modi's a great leader. For me, I don't see India being influenced by any outside factors other than what's best for India. I think that's what Modi looks at all the time, is what's best for India, what's best for the people of India when making decisions. And so I'd love to hear from you guys, though.
Finding refuge on U.S. soil raises serious questions about American intentions, especially as these individuals openly support divisive agendas against India. Another such example involves David Headley, a Pakistani American involved in the 2008 Mumbai terror attacks. Headley, who conducted surveillance for the attack, was arrested in the U.S., but despite requests for extradition, he was never handed over to India.
Wow.
Instead, Headley struck a plea deal with the U.S. authorities, receiving a reduced sentence in exchange for cooperation, which shielded him from prosecution in India. This reluctance by the United States in supporting New Delhi on critical security issues exposes Washington's selective approach to justice when U.S. interests are at stake.
Exactly.
Despite claiming to be a flag bearer of democracy, Washington has often shown support for authoritarian regimes where its own strategic interests took precedence over democratic values. This was particularly evident during the 1971 Indo-Pak War, a conflict stemming from widespread atrocities committed by the Pakistani military in East Pakistan, now Bangladesh. Despite India's intervention to stop human rights abuses in East Pakistan, Washington chose to support Pakistan, an authoritarian regime at the time, to maintain ties with China. Declassified documents reveal that the U.S. even sent the USS Enterprise to the Bay of Bengal as a show of force, signaling support for Pakistan. This episode serves as a reminder of how the U.S. has, at times, prioritized its geopolitical goals over democratic alliances, creating lasting distrust between India and the U.S.
Yeah.
No, I've dealt with.
I think when it comes to the U.S. is always going to prioritize its own interest sadly at the cost of other countries, at the cost of the people of other countries, and that's absolutely heartbreaking to say. But after learning about the U.S.'s history, actual real history, and hearing so many different stories that have come out, the U.S. Are just kind of bullies in the world, and they are going to do whatever it takes to get their way, to get their interest. It's like you're going to align with our interest, or we're going to make you align with our. You can choose to align with our interest, or we're going to make you align with our interest. It's kind of how it seems. But India, I just think India's an incredibly resilient country. I can't see them falling under the influence of the U.S.
With India too, Charles, I got to say, I've dealt with India too. I've talked with Modi. India wants to be a partner with us. They don't want to be a partner with Russia. The problem is India doesn't trust us to win. They don't trust us to lead. They see right now that we're weak. India has always played it smart.
Even decades later, these priorities have affected how the U.S. engages with India, particularly in defense cooperation. While India has since diversified its partnerships, the reliance on U.S. defense technology reveals new challenges, often limiting India's autonomy. You see, the U.S. remains a significant arms supplier to India, but this relationship has often resulted in delays, restrictions, and strategic setbacks. A classic example is the long delay in supply of engines for India's indigenous Tejas fighter jet, a project critical for reducing its reliance on foreign aircraft. In 2021, India signed a deal with General Electric for these engines, but recurring delays have slowed the modernization efforts of the Indian Air Force.
That's crazy.
Historically, the U.S. has a pattern of obstructing India's access to military technology. During the 1970s, American intelligence closely monitored India's nuclear facilities and sought to prevent India from conducting nuclear tests. More recently, the defense agreements between India and the U.S. have raised concerns about restrictions on India's operational autonomy. For instance, the deal for Apache and Chinook helicopters, valued at $3 billion, was signed in 2015, prior to the 2018 Communications Compatibility and Security Agreement. However, with the signing of COMCASA, all U.S. origin platforms, including these helicopters, are now equipped with secure communication systems provided by the U.S., sparking concerns over potential monitoring capabilities and their implications for India's strategic independence. Such dependency on American defense systems can become a vulnerability if supply chains are interrupted due to political shifts or diplomatic tensions. The U.S. has long been involved in shaping regional dynamics around India, and its recent stance on the Khalistani issue feels like part of a bigger strategy. Recently, the U.S. has responded strongly to two incidents involving Khalistani separatists, Hardeep Singh Nijjar and Gurpatwant Singh Pannu. After Nijjar's killing in Canada, which Canada alleged involved Indian agents, the U.S. supported Canada's position as part of the Five Eyes alliance, indirectly pressuring India to cooperate. Around the same time, reports emerged of an alleged plot to kill Gurpatwant Singh Pannu, a prominent U.S.-based Khalistani separatist, which the U.S. condemned, emphasizing its commitment to protect individuals on its soil, even those with anti-India agendas. These cases highlight how the U.S. may be leveraging the Khalistani issue to push India toward a more Western-aligned stance, particularly on key issues like the Russia-Ukraine war.
Nah, India not having it, bro. Y'all ain't finna sway India. Y'all ain't finna influence India. What do you guys think? What do y'all think that this would be enough to sway India? I don't think so.
India has so far maintained a neutral stance, focusing on its own strategic interests rather than taking sides, which has created friction with the West. At the same time, India's involvement in BRICS, a bloc that includes China and Russia, is raising concerns in Western capitals. With BRICS exploring alternatives to the US-dominated financial system, including a potential BRICS currency, India's independent positioning threatens United States' economic hegemony. By raising the Khalistani issue, the U.S. could be signaling that India's choices on global matters will have consequences, subtly pressuring India to reconsider its alliances. In many ways, this feels like an attempt to pull India away from a more autonomous path and make it fall in line with Western interests, especially as India's influence on the world stage continues to grow. While the U.S. has been a strong partner to India in several respects, it's clear that its history of intervention and influence raises important questions about the future of India-U.S. relations. As India strives to become a self-reliant global power, it must carefully weigh the costs and benefits of this relationship. Should India trust the US unconditionally, or is it time to adopt a more cautious approach? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more in-depth analyses on India's geopolitical landscape.
I'm very intrigued to hear y'all's perspective and hear y'all's thoughts on the video, and if you guys think that India should trust the US, or US is just giving too many reasons for India not to be able to trust them. Love to hear it. That's all we have. If you enjoyed, please don't forget to subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, check out the next one. I'll see y'all next time.